Hi, I'm Stu Kohn, and I'm being joined tonight by Bob Cancro at the East Brunswick High School gym. The East Brunswick High School wrestling team is going to take on the Woodbridge Barrons. Tonight, East Brunswick is coming off an impressive win from just last night, where they beat the Piscataway Chiefs 37-30. And on that winning note, Coach, how do you see tonight's match against the Barons for East Brunswick?
That was a good confidence builder for the Bears last night. A very good win for them. We've got a situation coming into this match where we've really got like that old math property. If A is greater than B and B is greater than C, therefore A is greater than C. Well, East Brunswick beat Edison. Edison beat Woodbridge earlier this week. So the question comes in, what happens tonight? Will A be greater than C? We've got some interesting matchups because where Woodbridge tends to be stronger, the Bears might not be quite as strong, and where East Brunswick has some good wrestlers, Woodbridge doesn't quite match up as well. One exception to that is at 152 pounds, where you have the Bears' Eric Savitsky, who has really come on very strong lately, against the Barons' Ryan Halliday. So 152 should be a real good matchup.
So we'll be right back for tonight's action. Okay, we're back with tonight's action. Right now we're at the East Brunswick High School gym, and the captains for both teams, East Brunswick and Woodbridge, have just taken to the middle of the mat for the pre-match talk with the official and to determine the home and away bouts for tonight's contest. And I'm Stu Kohn, and I'm being joined by Bob Cancro. And for those of you who normally tune in to the Channel 8 wrestling matches, I'm used to Jimmy Allender carrying me, so I'm in for trouble tonight.
I don't think so, Stu. We'll do okay. I'm asking you to carry me tonight, so I'm putting an extra load on you.
I think we're going to have to carry each other.
We will do the best we can.
So we're about ready to start tonight's match, and we're at 103 pounds.
Scott Munn's going out there for the Bears against Joe Gimnani for the Barons. Gimnani, a freshman. And Scott, who is a sophomore, going in, and he picks up the takedown. Nice double leg. And looking very aggressive. So one of the things I've noticed in the couple of matches I've been watching lately, especially, is that the Bears are very good. They're young, but very aggressive.
Well, they're loaded up with sophomores. As we said earlier, a little bit of learning experience this year for the Bears, not having the finest season.
Bolt him over. He's got him on his back. He's got a couple points out there at least.
Looking like a fall.
Oh, yeah. Very nice.
So it's Scott Munez that gets the ball rolling for East Brunswick tonight, gets East Brunswick on the scoreboard first. That's going to put East Brunswick up 6-0.
44 seconds on that pin, and that's got to make Scott Munz feel real good. He's just coming into the lineup, a first-year varsity wrestler. I'm sorry, he's a junior. I said a sophomore before. But that's a nice start. One of the things that the Bears have been doing is giving up a lot of pins along the way, and I think this might be a good start for them.
Well, we certainly don't have the first and second best team in the county here tonight, but we certainly have a dual meet that should be exciting. We have two very evenly matched teams in East Brunswick and Woodbridge.
Very competitive. This is Jake Jager for the Barons, who is trying to pick up that cradle, and against Andrew Hamza. And Hamza picks up the takedown. He had a nice match against Oldbridge, a real very nice, tough-fought battle and a win against Oldbridge on Saturday.
That was a big win going into the county tournament next weekend. That should give him a lift and a good edge in seeding.
He's got good control in there as he rides. Still in the first minute of the opening period at 112 pounds.
So with 1:18 to go in the first period, we're going to resume play in the middle of the mat.
Yeah. Just 1:10 remaining in the first period, and is it a 2-0 lead for Andrew Hamza. Andrew is a sophomore, and he took a third place early this year in the Hamilton East Wrestling Tournament, which is very nice for a sophomore to pick up. maintaining some control on the far side of the mat. And they go out of bounds.
Hams is a leverage wrestler. He's going to use that lanky body to his advantage.
I always pointed out when we're coaching, the kids who are that long and that had that much leverage really could do a lot of damage on another kid. Kids aren't usually used to working with that length of body.
Yeah, I think a common misconception of wrestling is that the stocky, strong stud is the kind of person you picture as the quality wrestler, but you and I both know it's that long, lanky leverage kid that really can tie you up and create all kinds of havoc for the opponent.
Kid who throws in the legs, who can drive you over, and Hamza is trying that right now. He's got the half Nelson in with the far arm guard posted, and we've got to count. We've got at least 2 points on the back. With 10 seconds remaining, he's got to lift that head and put a little more pressure, and he might have it.
Just ran out of time.
And that is good for 3.
So it's Hams is going to take a 5-0 lead into the second period.
Woodbridge had choice in that period. They took the neutral position. They're on their feet. Andrew Hamza leading 5-0 as Jager shoots in and picks up the takedown. See, both of these guys are fairly long. They're both kind of lanky individuals. And you can look at the way they're tied up right now. Those legs are all over the place.
Hamza picks up 2 points on a reversal. Takes us to 7-2. Hamza on top in the bout and on top in the score.
He's got that crazy leg again, that inside leg through the splitting the legs.
Our official for tonight is Mark Blaska, president of the Central New Jersey Wrestling Officials Association.
One of many fine officials, such as yourself, working Central Jersey.
I don't know about that.
Oh, no. They'll come back into the center with just 1:01 remaining in the second period.
I'm sure if you take a survey of the fans in attendance at any wrestling match, you're not going to find a good wrestling official.
Oh, no, I see a couple of parents out there who definitely know that you're a good official.
I paid them well.
Okay. Quick call on the edge there, and Mark Blaska comes back in. Brings them back inside, I should say. This is the last bout before the county seeding meeting, the county tournament seeding meeting, which is going to be held next Monday night. Somewhere along the line, Stu, we ought to probably talk a little bit, because you've been to those meetings. You can tell a little bit about how hectic that can be and what kind of situation that is. We've got Hamza rocking him up. He's got the leg hooked. He's got at least a couple points out of this. And he's got a lot of time, 23 seconds remaining.
So he's got in on a deep half.
He's got to lift that head a little bit and pop that far arm out. Jager is supporting himself on the elbow. It's awfully easy to wrestle from up here.
Yeah, you're right. What Hamza needs to do here, he needs to get some good arch into his back,
there
scoop up that arm, and not run out of time.
He picks up 3 on the back points, and it is a 10-2 Hamza lead right now, which of course is an 8-point margin. That's possible for a major decision, which is a 14 points. But we've got 2 minutes to go. There's a lot of time left in this bout.
So far it's been all East Brunswick here. Scott Muntz and Andrew Hamza getting the Bears off on the right track tonight.
Turns Jager over again. We've got a couple more points here.
So Hamza putting up the points. We're at 12-2, 30 seconds into the third.
Hamza doing a fine job out there and running it again. He is just trying to punish Jaeger right now, really, just over and over again. It looks like he might be blocking that the pin with his arm underneath the body.
Well, Hamza needs to come off his knees here and get good arch.
And I guess he got it.
And he converted that into a fall. So we got a 12-zip lead.
Very nice.
Andrew Hamza really been coming on as of late. As you said earlier, we had a big win over Woodbridge. Now another big win coming at a good time. When
you've got matches where you have two teams that have comparable performances against other clubs such as Edison, and as they did back and forth, nip and tuck, the pins really make a difference. That was a situation where last Saturday when the Bears lost to Stevens, it was a matter of giving up the falls early on that cost them.
Absolutely. Even when you lose a wrestling match, you're helping your team by keeping the score close and not giving up valuable team points.
This is Phil Leota out there on the mat now for the Bears against Scott Soltis.
Well, Phil started the season off at 103 and was having a little bit of trouble holding the weight, going through a growth spurt, and he's up at 119, where, you know, he's growing into the weight class, a little small for it now, but certainly pay dividends for him next season.
Yeah, Phil was 10-2 at 103 pounds, really had a wonderful season going, but again, the growth just hurt him, and right now he is carrying the extra weight, and sometimes picking up that extra weight not only in your own body, but carrying the other fellow's weight too can be very difficult.
Well, one thing you never want to do is stop your body from its natural process, and you know, Phil needs to grow.
Well, you look at it, his brother at Russ is at 140 pounds, and they are 2/3 of triplets, and it's only natural that Phil has to be somewhat closer in size to Russell when you get right down to it. It's really only natural that he would be a larger kid. 103 pounds, it might have been just a little unnatural for him to carry. Scott Soltis picked up that takedown, and we still have just a 2-0 score. We're in the second minute of the first period. Soltis controlling pretty well, but Phil's still able to move, get his legs out.
So as we said earlier, East Brunswick had a big win last night, 37-30 over Piscataway, and what can you tell us about that match, Coach?
Well, one of the keys, as we were discussing earlier, Stu, was the fact that they moved Larry Benson up from his normal 171 spot, and he wrestled 189, and pinned Dom DeAnthony from Piscataway. So that was a big win. I mean, that was, as we were just talking about pins making such a difference, and moving Benson up made a difference. Dave McGowan coming in, decisioning, a major decision at 171. So there were two wrestlers for the Bears who picked up 10 points for them and made a significant impact on that final result.
So we're going to get one Leota on an escape. Fans a little abdomen about that call. They were looking for a 2-point reversal, but the referee splits the difference. He awards 1 point for Leota for an escape. So we're going to start neutral. So Coach Bazinko did his homework last night, capitalized on his assets, juggled the lineup, and converted that match into a win last night for the Bears.
That was a nice win. I mean, they had a really tough loss to a top-ranked team in North Hunterdon on Tuesday night. And you almost had to write that one off and ignore it. And I think the kids bounced back really well. And Glenn did a nice job of getting the kids ready for last night's match at Piscataway. Okay, the Bears will take the bottom. Russell Leota taking defense as we get into the second period. It's 2-1. Scott Soltis for Woodbridge in a match that right now East Brunswick has a 12-0 lead in. Phil coming out, but Jaeger capturing the legs.
Well, what we do know about Woodbridge, most of their strength lies in the middle weight classes and into the upper weight classes. So I think that is part of the East Brunswick strategy here tonight, is to build up an insurmountable lead early on and never look back.
I think they've done a nice job, considering the fact we've had two young wrestlers in Scott Munns and Andrew Hamza out there, and they picked up 12 points. So the strategy, if that's the way it works, has been successful. And if they can pick up a couple more in here as they move through these earlier weights, the Bears do have a good shot at it.
As Soltis, we just saw, get warned for stalling. The referee stops the bout when the offensive wrestler is warned for stalling. They'll restart in the middle of the mat. when the defensive wrestlers weren't forestalling, they just continue the action.
Still, when you get down to calling stalling, I mean, what are you looking as Russ? Phil, I keep saying Russ. I'm sorry. Phil Leota gets the escape, and we now have a tie at 2-2.
You're looking for a wrestler not making an attempt to improve his position. As we're deadlocked at 2-2 in the second period. We're going to get a fresh start in the middle.
Years ago, Stu, when I first started officiating, which was about 1,000 years ago, they always used part of the criteria. If a man's being overpowered, he didn't have to be called for stalling. You still use that same criteria today?
It's still around, but you see a lot more parity in high school wrestling now. It's not often you get somebody that can really truly dominate their opponent. Yeah. Although it does happen, and you have to just filter all that in and make your best judgment call. As Phil Leota's in on a 2-point takedown.
Nice.
Beautiful duck under. So I think the last couple matches, Phil might have had a little trouble adjusting to the 119 jump. Seems to be a little bit more feeling his own tonight.
He looks a lot more comfortable, I think, now with that 119-pound weight. I think, as you said, he's growing into it a little bit. And, you know, you have that one less burden to worry about. I mean, there's enough mental strain in wrestling without having to worry about that extra weight that you're having a hard time cutting.
Well, certainly the ideal weight for Phil this year is probably 112, but that position being manned by Andrew Hamza in good fashion, the team not wanting to break up the chemistry. You see Leota jump to 119 as he's in on a takedown right on the edge. Phil using the mat to his advantage there very smartly.
Quick 1 and 2 back from by Phil. And we have a 6-3 lead now for Phil Leota with just 3 seconds remaining in the second period.
And the Woodbridge wrestler's going to have choice for the third period since Phil had it in the second. And I'm sure he's going to take bottom again, trying to capitalize and score.
And we're talking about Phil having a hard time cutting that weight. We were talking with some of the managers from Woodbridge earlier who were giving us a lot of good information. We'll mention their names a little bit later on. But they were saying that Scott Saltis, who was out here for the Barons, is one of the members of the team who has one of the hardest times cutting weight and really is not a real happy camper when he has to cut that weight. So we've got 2 fellows out there who at different times have had trouble with the scales. Wrestlers starting on their feet in the third period. Phil Leota with a 6-3 lead and trying to spin around, and they are out of bounds, and Mark Velasquez sends them back to the middle.
Well, Phil was in on a front head there, trying to convert it to a near side cradle and just ran out of space.
A lot of wrestlers will work the circle and they'll start moves right out there, because that way if they do get in trouble and they're edging their way back towards the far side again, if they get in trouble, they have the ability to scoot out of bounds real quick.
Well, using that mat to your advantage, it's a science. You see a good quality wrestler knows where he is on the mat at all times.
It's no different than any other sport where you use the sidelines as your pick man. You use an official as your pick man. The same thing here. The sideline, that outer circle, becomes very important.
As we saw Woodbridge last week, they really seem to have it down well. One of the teams in the county that uses the whole mat to their advantage better than any team I've seen wrestle all year.
Excellent club. They are well balanced and well disciplined, well trained. They understand the techniques and the strategies involved. Yeah, it's a real good club. The Knights are a top-notch team.
So we're at 6-3 in the third with a minute to go.
Phil's backed up here a couple of times. Mark Velasquez may be looking to make sure that he stays in the middle with a 6-3 lead. He's going to have to stay somewhat aggressive, or at least appear that he's aggressive, or Velasquez may hit him for a stall.
Well, the best strategy for Phil is to stay aggressive here. Phil is blocking and backing. He's got to be careful here that he doesn't get warned for stalling. Phil can pop his head out. Yeah, he ran out of space again.
30 seconds remaining in the last period. Phil Leota looking to pick up his first win at 119 pounds and establish some momentum for obviously what's his new weight class.
Looks like he's going to be on 119 the rest of the season.
Saltis tries to drop in. Again, a block by Phil.
As we said earlier, it's the last opportunity for the East Brunswick wrestlers to get another win under their belts.
Pulls him over, Phil.
For the Cedarmean as Leota takes his opponent right to his back.
He's going to run out of time, though, Stu, but a nice finish by Phil Leota. as he picks up a 3.
It's going to give him just enough to turn that decision into a major decision.
Very nice.
So Phil working the clock, working the whole period, gives his teammates an extra point to work with, turning that 3-point decision into a 4-point decision. A gap in his opponent by 8 points, turn this into a major decision. So way to work, Phil Leota.
That has got to be a real uplifting win for Phil and the rest of the team, because clearly moving up to 119, he hadn't done very well, but that win has to be a real happy moment for everybody.
So a match that we projected as being able to go either way so far has been all East Brunswick. We're at 16 zip.
And Dan Corio at 125 on the mat for the Bears against Woodbridge's Sean Gavor, one of their senior tri-captains.
So Corio gives us a different look than the first 3 wrestlers we've seen on the mat for East Brunswick tonight. Corio much more solid, stocky wrestler than the lanky leverage that we saw earlier.
Much more physical wrestler. Right there, he's behind him, but they have to come down to the mat. Wrestler has to control his opponent on the mat for the 2 points, and they do not get it as Gavor goes out of bounds. Corio has the single leg and a whizzer in by Gavor to block the move. They come back up their feet and go out of bounds right in front of the scorer's table.
Corio's one of those wrestlers that can really come out of the pack in the next weekend at the county tournament and do something for himself.
And right now, standing at a 6-3 record, he's kind of in the middle. He's certainly not going to be seated very high, but he could, as you say, come out of the middle of the pack and do some damage. There are a lot of good wrestlers on the Bear squad. As a team, they certainly don't have the record to show it, but you have some individuals who have, as I've heard you say many times, the ability to score and do some damage in a tournament.
He's got himself in a locking hands situation right now. So far, the referee hasn't picked it up to Corio's advantage. He's going to get away with that one.
That's a tough one to ignore. And Coach Bob Zaga over on the other side either didn't see it or didn't care about it. I can't imagine didn't care, but
well, it's a good thing Mark Blaska, the official, he can't hear us talking, because Corio just saved himself a bow point right there on the locking hands.
Well, Mark Blaska said that, they told me before, if any of the calls are bad, then his name is actually Stu Kohn. So Gavor comes up for an escape.
So we're at 2-1, which should be 2-2 right now, but it's going East Brunswick's way tonight all the way around.
With 2 seconds left, 1, and there's the buzzer. Dan Corio, senior 125-pounder for the Bears with a 2-1 lead.
Let's touch on that real quick. When the wrestler is in the offensive position on the mat, the only time he can lock his hands around the body is when he's in a pinning combination.
It is so easy for young wrestlers especially, and we see it in the recreation level, and there's a quick escape as Corio lets him go, looking for probably the takedown again. He must feel very comfortable on his feet.
So that's a strategy Corio is going to apply. He feels he can out-wrestle his opponent on his feet, so he gives up the 1 and attempt for the 2.
Just to finish that thought, well, Gavor's in on a single.
Corio counters with a whizzer.
One of the toughest moves in wrestling with the whizzer. It's a real battle out there when you've got that arm hook as they do.
So for Corio's strategy to work, he's going to have to convert into a takedown now.
Get back just to finish the thought we had before, Stu. We're talking about clasping, and with young wrestlers, it's so easy just to wrap your hands around a kid to try to take them down and hold them on the mat. And because it's so easy, obviously it's illegal, and you can't have that. And Dan Corio did get away with it on the near side over here.
Sometimes those recreation league matches are the toughest ones to officiate. That's when they can really make you look bad as an official. Kids don't react quite the way they should, and you get into all kinds of all-carry situations, and you just never know what's happening next.
As a referee, you expect certain things to happen because you've seen wrestling for so long, but little kids do lots of strange things. And if anybody in the community has a chance to go out and see some of these recreation matches, no matter what town it is, it's a lot of fun to watch these little guys roll around and learn the sport, because most of these guys, or many of these guys, who are on the mat for both Woodbridge and the Bears started out in those recreation leagues.
Some of these guys only 15, 16 years old, coming into tonight's match with 10, 11 years experience.
It's true. I know you were talking last week about John Mooney's son, CJ, who was only in kindergarten. He's wrestling for the recreation team in East Brunswick. Now here's a 5-year-old that by the time he hits his sophomore year at about 15, he'll have 10 years in.
Corio's in on a double and needs to convert that.
He's got his head buried. He's got to lift that up and dump it.
And the one point that Corio saved on locking hands, the referee dismissed a head scissors, so we're even now. They both didn't get a point they're entitled to.
I'll tell you, it's been a while since I've read the book, Stu, but I saw that and I said that can't be right.
No.
Corio had his ankles crossed around Sean Gavor's head. That's a scissor. That's illegal.
And we have a second while they're head-to-head tie on their feet. We're going to give you a little update on C.J. Mooney. He took second place in his first tournament last weekend at Middlesex High School Recreation League tournament.
The East Brunswick Rec team did very, very well over there. They had a number of kids who came up with winners. And should be very proud of the kids.
Corio again on a single. He's got 9 seconds to convert that into a takedown. He needs to trip and come around. Needs to cut the corner.
And it doesn't happen. So we finish up 2 periods of wrestling, 4 minutes down, and it is a 2-2 score. And Dan Corio is going to take down the defensive position in the 3rd period. He can't get the points on his feet. Maybe he'll try from coming up from down under.
So we're getting a lot of our information tonight from the Woodbridge team managers.
The 3 young ladies we were talking to before the match, Shannon Acquisto, who happens to be the cousin of the 2 Russo brothers on the Woodbridge team, Melissa Salduti and Cindy Voorhees. The 3 of them were sitting with us and providing some background information on Woodbridge. Corio is trying to free his arm. He's still not going to have much control if he gets out, but he's got the 1 now, so he is on his feet where he wanted to be before. And with a 3-2 lead and a single leg.
And he's in deep.
And a pair of points on the takedown.
So far, it's been all East Brunswick.
This has been this has got to be very pleasing for Glenn Pazinko. He's had a number of matches where it's gone back and forth and where he's lost a couple of close ones. He's got a close one right now with Corio, but he's also got a 16-point lead.
Well, this is where wrestling the high points and the South Plain fields and all the teams East Brunswick doesn't have to wrestle on their schedule that aren't in their division help the Bears out when they get into divisional play.
As when you wrestle the best, it's going to show.
There's a
He's
locking hands
got a clash
again.
And Blasco is looking, and he's not calling it. Are we missing something? And he gives up the escape.
Maybe Coach Pazinko put a little extra in the paycheck tonight.
That couldn't possibly happen. It doesn't happen. But it is strange. I mean, we're both saying the same thing. There's no question. And
it's hard. It really is. All our comments are in jest. It is real hard to always catch everything out there. Sometimes we're at a better angle to see the action than the official.
That's a nice takedown by Dan Corio. Really forced his way, bowled his way through there, and he now has a 7-3 lead. Just 32 seconds now. Gavor has been able to come up and get the escape a couple of times now.
So we got to look at Corio. He's really etched in stone there.
Really nice, nicely developed. Broad shoulders.
He's showing the official. Again, he's going to let his opponent up and try to convert it into a takedown. When you intentionally let your opponent up, you do have to inform the official.
That's a change in the rules in the last couple of years, right?
Last couple of years, that's been a rule that they've instituted.
Gets that takedown, so he is building some points there. He's certainly not going to get a major out of this.
So it seems like the conditioning of Corio is certainly giving him the edge here in the 3rd period. Where both wrestlers kind of pace each other out in the 1st. It's been all Corio here in the 3rd.
There's the escape for Gavor, and the period comes to a close. And while it was not overpowering, the 9-5 win by Dan Corio, very solid performance, which puts the Bears up 19-0. Certainly not something that we expected during this contest.
And taking the mat for East Brunswick, it's Eric Bellis, one of the stronger wrestlers in the East Brunswick lineup. Only a junior, already one of the team captains.
Against Ali Lee.
A year-round competitor in Eric Bellis. Good technique, good work ethics.
Eric's brother wrestled for me a few years ago when I was coaching over at Churchill, and probably put the bug into his brother's ear.
Well, we get a lot of that, as you see later on.
Absolutely.
If we get to see Dave McGowan wrestle, we've had a lot of legacy in East Brunswick wrestling.
McGowan's, Koval, Toto's, all of those fellows and the families come along, they wrestle. The family comes along, they watch the wrestling, the younger brothers enjoy it, they see what's going on. They come in, they wrestle themselves.
Pass it on to their brothers and gets in the bloodline.
And probably one of the names we just missed, and we'll be shot for it, is the fellow that's sitting over on the bench on the side. Two fellows over there, actually, both John Mooney and Glenn Pazinko.
That's right.
Older brothers and families of wrestlers.
You can't leave the Totos out.
No.
So, did you get the opportunity to keep in touch with any of your old wrestlers that you've coached along the way?
Yeah, there are still a few fellows who are around the area, or who during the time that I was working with them, we became close, family friends. Mike Wessler, who I coached in over at Hammersholt. He is now coaching with me in the recreation program here in town. Mike was one of the first gold medal winners for us down at Hammersholt when Ron Serena and I started coaching down there. The Clearys, again, there's another family of wrestlers, Glenn and Kevin. Kevin, I've been to his wedding and gone to his children's christening, so, and the Clearys are certainly a wrestling family. George Guido, another one of our former athletes who was running the recreation program right now, who is the president of the East Brunswick Wrestling Club, and George doing a fine job. His son, Jamie is wrestling for rec, and his son, Josh, wrestling for the freshmen over at Churchill.
So those of you that are listening at home, we can get a pretty good dig into the archives of East Brunswick Wrestling from Bob Cancro, who's been associated with the East Brunswick Wrestling program as far back as I can remember. As Bellis is in on a takedown.
He's got the takedown, almost had him turned over just as the period ends, and a 2-0 lead.
It just seems like everything is going East Brunswick's way here so far tonight.
You know, you hate to jinx them, but you know they can't do anything wrong.
They're scoring right. They're scoring on the buzzer.
They clasp and they don't get called. I mean, I don't think Glenn's going to be happy to hear us say that, nor Dan Coria if he watches this replay. But they are doing a lot of things right, regardless of anything else that's happening.
Well, over a course of a dual meet, the calls seem to go for you. They seem to come back against you too. It always seems to average out. You might get one early on, but you'll lose a call you thought should have went your way later on. Things have a way of balancing themselves out.
As an official, of course, you don't think anything about that. You're just calling the match as you see it. You're working it, and you don't worry about it. And you know you blew a call once in a while, but you let that go. Bellis again on a takedown, and he's
Bellis is really showing us something here as he gets a deep half in, looking to turn Ollie to his back.
Stretches that arm out, picks up that head, and he's got a lot of time to put Ali Lee on his back.
And if he's got a minute 16 to work with.
Oh.
Bellis wants to do here is get a good arch into his back, get chest to chest, put a lot of pressure on, and convert to a fall as he's getting instructions from Coach Mooney. Coach Mooney, tell him how to fix it up.
And just pop that elbow.
Get a good arch there, Eric, and you got it. Lift up on that head.
Got a planted there.
He's planted. 5 minutes and 10 seconds.
3:10 on the fall. 3 minutes, 10 seconds. Eric Bellis.
I stand to be corrected at 5:10 and 3:10.
Picks up his 12th win of the season against just 3 losses.
So if we can get a span of that Woodbridge bench that was once quite vivacious, you see the fight's been taken out of them, and they're just don't know what quite happened to them tonight.
I mean, the match is far from over, Stu, but at the same time, it takes the wind out of you when you go down with 3 pins and a major decision in the first 5 bouts.
Well, what we do know is we've heard a lot about John Russo. He's waiting in the wings in the Woodbridge bench, and he's going to certainly change the momentum around for Woodbridge, one of the stronger points in their lineup.
Absolutely, one of the 2
Rob
Russo
McKinley's in on a takedown.
Rob McKinley, just a sophomore. Only a 5-7 record, but right now he is in control of Damian Reyes of Woodbridge in this 135-pound bout.
Well, I don't know what East Brunswick talked about in the locker room before this match, but it's certainly working out.
Again in on the double leg and the takedown and a count. We've got back points coming out of this. McKinley again with that half Nelson. Looks like that arm is getting bent a little bit. Mark Glasgow taking a look at it, but not a problem right now.
So McKinley taking a 6-1 lead, only in the first period.
Still a couple of times I've said we've got a count going. When a referee is looking for the near fall, what's the criteria on those two situations?
If you can get your opponent's shoulders exposed to the mat for 2 continuous seconds, it's going to be a 2-0, 2 back points. If you can get your opponent's shoulders to the mat for 5 seconds or more, you're going to pick up 3 back points.
So as you're watching the match and you see Mark Glasgow arm going out on the count, you may see it going out a lot, once, twice. He stops once, twice. Again, the pinning combination, if it's the same pinning combination, there are not additional points, right, Stu?
Well, you can only earn 1 set of back points per each pinning combination. So in order to score more back points, you have to change your pinning combination.
We have a 7-2 lead right now. Rob McKinley having turned Ali over. A couple of takedowns. Make that 3.
Rob McKinley really showing us something here tonight.
Only 2 seconds left as the period coming to a close. McKinley running out of time in the first period. But with a 9-2 lead in the 135-pound weight class over Damian Reyes. Bob Zega, coach of Woodbridge, now in his 3rd season. He's a biology and physics teacher at Woodbridge High School and a former Woodbridge wrestler. There are any number of coaches who are around who wrestled at their alma maters and now coaching at their alma maters, I should say.
And Coach Bazinko here at East Brunswick.
And some guy named Kohn was here for a while too. McKinley with a figure 4 around the leg. That is legal.
He's got it pretty tight. A beautiful figure 4 around the head for Rob McKinley.
And a fall.
Converted that into a fall. So Rob McKinley keeping the winning ways for East Brunswick.
Rob McKinley with a pin at 2 minutes, 37 seconds in the second period and a 31-0 lead for the Bears. This has got to be probably one of the most enjoyable matches Glenn Pazinka's had all year.
Well, on the mat now for Woodbridge is the ever-exciting John Russo. East Brunswick, to keep this streak alive, is going to need a outstanding performance here, because Russo he's going to enter the county tournament, I'm sure, with the #1 seed. Strong point in the lineup for Woodbridge. Extremely aggressive wrestler. And we were talking to Woodbridge managers before tonight's dual meet, and they all told us the same thing. John Russo, he just hates to lose.
Russo is a very tough wrestler, only a junior, and yet one of their tri-captains. So that really says something about his abilities and his leadership qualities as well. He's wrestling right now against Andrew Tanchik for the Bears. I think, again, that's a bit of strategy. Glenn keeping Russell out. Russell had Russell Leota having a bad shoulder. He was in a sling earlier in the week.
Right here, Russo is trying to work a near side cradle, but we know John Russo has that patented move. It's called the Russo 3/4. Hopefully we won't get a look at it tonight, but if it's coming, I'm gonna definitely let you know when it's coming. It's John Russo, there it is. You see Russo with the patented 3/4 Nelson that he's known for around Middlesex County. He's converted this into a pin time and time again. It's the Russo 3/4.
He's got that leg hooked. He pulls the neck down under and stacks the man, and that's where we find ourselves with a pin at 1 minute and 27 seconds. Nice move, though.
So John Russo puts Woodbridge on the board. We're at 31-6, and we're at 145. We're going to get a look for East Brunswick at Nick Baldwin.
And again, for the Barons, as you were saying, Stu, they're hitting their stride now. The upper middleweights.
Well,
Rob Pfizer, I'm sorry.
Rob Pfizer, he came into the district tournament last year unseeded. Had the distinction of wrestling the top seed first round, a situation you don't want to find yourself in. And he upset that wrestler, and he went on to take second place in the districts last year as a freshman. So it's Pfizer with a little more experience here. Baldwin in on a quick takedown.
Not very intimidated by that ability. The senior for Woodbridge being taken down.
So it's Baldwin 2-0.
When you talked about Rob Pfizer upsetting a top seed in the districts last year, you talked about going back into the archives, and I can remember one of the first year I was working up here with Paul Quirk and a fellow by the name of Bill Sorber, unseeded with a less than 500 record, wrestling the top-seeded wrestler from New Brunswick, and just to our right, in front of the American flag over there on that mat, there's a reversal by Pfizer, planting this kid, planting the top seed for an upset. He won the districts, he went on and won the regions, and then wrestled in Jadwin. So here's a kid, you talk about coming out of nowhere, coming out of the middle of the pack. He came from the bottom of the pack and wrestled at Jadwin in the States.
East Brunswick can use a few more Butchies.
He had there was a lot of heart.
Everybody remembers Butch.
It is a 3-2 score right now for Rob Pfizer. Again, one of the third tri-captain for the Barons. And Nick Baldwin not really being intimidated. He's still working hard. He's got that arm barred right now. 30 seconds remaining. Turns him. And the fall. So just as we were saying, you pointed out the strength of the Barons seems to be in the upper middle weights, and they certainly hit a stride right there.
And we're about to see perhaps maybe our toughest matchup of the night at 152. For Eric Savitsky, who's really been coming on strong for the Bears. He's going to go against
Ryan Halliday from Woodbridge. Halliday, who is only a freshman.
He's one of those freshmen we talked about with about the 11 years of experience.
Yeah, he has an 8-1 record at varsity. That doesn't sound like a freshman to me.
Well, he might be a freshman in grade, but he's certainly not a freshman to the mats. Halliday's been on the mats a long time, and Savitsky's been coming on real strong, so this should be one of our most exciting bouts of the night.
Now, Eric comes in right now with a 9-5 record, and a lot of those wins have come in the last few matches as he's really put together a nice string.
Well, Savitsky's really been on a roll. We had the opportunity to talk to him before the bout. He had a few disappointing losses early in the season, and he's on a mission now. He's looking to turn the corner in the county tournament. And if there's one opponent that he really wants revenge at, you bet it's that guy from Perth Amboy.
Perth Amboy had to be one of the disappointments as they early in the season for the Bears.
Yeah, but talking to Eric, he's using that match as motivation. That's motivated him to turn the corner. Really knows he's capable of much better than that, and since then he has been on a tear.
Talk about the mental side of wrestling. There's a lot of personal motivation, a lot of internal strength that you have to draw on. And a lot of wrestlers will take those losses, and as people should do in life, you take those losses, turn them around, and use it as a goal for the rest of the season.
I think you have about every 152-pounder in the county going to be looking at the newspaper tomorrow to see the outcome of this bout.
And there are some good ones in the area, too. Wondering how this one's going to turn out. Just 1 minute remaining in the first period between Savitsky and Halliday.
The other night we weren't live on air, but we saw Eric Savitsky just have a phenomenal match against North Hunterdon, where he beat a 9-1 wrestler from North Hunterdon in the schedule at North Hunterdon Wrestles. Certainly is an impressive win for Eric Savitsky.
Very good performance. Both wrestlers were called for stalling. Referee, not that he cares about records, but obviously saw that neither wrestler was really doing very much. And clearly both of them kind of feel each other out a little bit, find out what their opponent's up to. They know they have talent on the other side. and Mark Blaska calling both wrestlers for the warning for stalling.
I think both these guys respect each other. They're both aware of each other's talents. Nobody wants to make a mistake. They're being real careful not to give their opponent any opportunity to score.
So when you have a situation, you're saying both wrestlers, neither wants to make a mistake. Doesn't that also put you at a disadvantage a little bit, or can it put you at a disadvantage because suddenly you find yourself a little bit too cautious?
Well, it's like a chess match. Both wrestlers looking for the right time to make their move. As Savitsky turns an ankle pick into a beautiful takedown. It's the first time we've seen Savitsky use the ankle pick.
Pulled down on the neck, reaching for the ankle, and just before the end of the period, again, as you were saying, East Brunswick gets the score and a 2-0 lead as we go into the second period. Eric Savitsky for the Bears against Ryan Halliday for the Barons. And in the second period, Eric will be finding himself down.
Right here, both wrestlers are going to look to make the first move off the whistle. Everybody wants to explode and get the little edge, and Savitsky, that seems to have the better of the whistle. Savitsky right to his feet. Savitsky up 3-0. Quick escape.
And they're back on their feet again, and the turnabout is fair play as Halliday goes for the ankle pick and does have it.
Okay,
with a little hesitation.
Halliday was awarded the takedown because he managed to keep his feet in bounds. So that's the new rule of 95. You're awarded the takedown on the perimeter of the mat as long as your feet remain in bounds and you have control of your opponent, either above or below the knee.
And that used to be your knees had to be inbound, right? Still at one
Well,
point?
you had to be above the knee for control. Now it's anywhere on your opponent's legs, ankles, knees. As Savitsky's in on a 1.
He's able to get to his feet. Halliday has not shown the ability to control him on the mat. That's the second time that he's come up. Both wrestlers have a takedown. In fact, the same takedown, same style.
So Savitsky needs to keep his head up.
While they felt each other out in the early going, Savitsky got some good control and a little momentum going at the end of the first period. Was able to get the escape right at the beginning of the second. But since then, Ryan Halliday has gotten a takedown.
Well, we talked about the county tournament next weekend. What we really didn't touch on is the seating meeting. That's going to happen Monday. And this is a weight class that's really going to turn a long meeting into even a longer meeting when they have to seed the 152 weight class. You were talking earlier about A beating B and B beating C. Well, this is a weight class where everybody's beating everybody, and they're going to have a hard time sifting through everybody's wins and losses, and you can expect a great deal of the time of that seating meeting to be spent at 152.
You have some excellent wrestlers there. You've got a Mike Reynolds from JP Stevens, a Chad Powell from South River, Jason Nowak of Kennedy, John Ertl of South Plainfield. You know, the list, it is quite an extensive list. All of them with, in many cases, double-digit wins. And it does come down then to some head-to-head competition and your record against quality competition.
Well, I'm going to make one prediction. I'm going to look for Eric Savitsky to take home a county championship. I don't want to jinx you, Eric, but the way you've been wrestling, you're certainly capable of winning from wherever he's seated. He needs to stay on track, and he's certainly capable of bringing home the gold.
He's had some very solid performances in the last few matches, absolutely. And I'm not going to predict because I haven't seen as many other wrestlers you may have seen, Stu. You talk about having things go your way at the buzzer. That looked pretty dangerous.
Well, up at the cream of the crop with Savitsky at 52 is Ertl. I'm sure if Savitsky has it his way, he might not want to see Ertl to the finals. He might want to be in an opposite bracket as Ertl. But that's a wide open weight class. If East Brunswick has a shot for a county champ, their best shot might be at 152. Eric Bellis at 125. Just mentioned a couple wrestlers from East Brunswick looking to make some noise in the county tournament.
Larry Benson at 171 has a, if not for a championship, certainly can place in there. He's got a nice record.
We haven't talked We haven't talked a lot about Larry, but he certainly also has a good opportunity to place in that county tournament.
Well, we talked about being cautious. Right there, Mark Blasco viewed Savitsky's performance as a little less than aggressive. He has called him for stalling and a violation.
Andrew Hamza also had another opportunity to place in that tournament.
Hamza, for a young performer, has done a very nice job. And we've got a tie match right now between the violation and now this escape. We've got a 4-4 match with 1:23 to go in the last period.
So it's a crucial situation where both wrestlers need to secure the takedown.
Look over in the bench, and Glenn Pazinko was wrestling this match with Savitsky with the moves and the twists and the turns. Single leg for Halliday, and
Savitsky needs to keep that underhook. Well,
that's tough.
About that one.
That's a tough one. You're still out there on the mat, and I've been out there in the stripes myself. I know how tough it can be. That was a tough call, that takedown.
Because Halliday's going to buy himself some time.
There is
taking a timeout.
Injury time for Ryan Halliday, who has a 2-point lead with 1:03 to go in the third period. Over on the sideline, we see Coach Brian Mintz and Glenn Pazinko talking with Eric. A very demonstrative Glenn Pazinko, trying to direct a few things, telling Eric what he expects, and Brian also giving a few pointers. Both those guys, very good technicians. Brian Mintz, when he was wrestling here, then went on to wrestle for a while at Rutgers, and Glenn Pazinko, state champion here at East Brunswick, who then took his skills down to North Carolina. Needs those points back right now. Down 2 with 1:03 to go. And
Savitsky with his work cut out for him here.
While other things haven't exactly gone the nip and tuck route that we thought it might, this match certainly has been just what was expected. Savitsky out in front, putting his full weight on top of Ryan Halliday. He's got to break that double leg.
Halliday's in a stalling situation there.
They're going to call a stalemate and start him again. I think Mark Blasco realized we have a real good match here, and he's not going to let him hold that position for too long. He's going to call that stalemate quickly and get him back so they can wrestle again.
This is a bout East Brunswick needs to win. We're going to get some strength to Woodbridge coming up.
Putting the pressure on his head. He's got a quarter Nelson in from the front. 30 seconds to go in the period.
Savitsky needs desperately to convert this into some points.
He's got to spin. He's got to turn him. Take him off his base. Break that block on the arm right there, that left arm of Halliday's. He's trying to hook the leg. 16 seconds left. He's got to come up and make a quick turn. 3/4. He's been learning from Russo.
He's got himself in trouble. With just 4 seconds to go in the third, it's Halliday. Converts that Russo 3/4 into a fall for Woodbridge. This match is going another direction.
That was that's a very tough loss for the Bears. Even if that was to be a loss by decision, that was okay. We're commenting earlier how one of the biggest problems that the Bears have had is giving up some pins in critical situations, and that may have been one of the critical situations right there. Right now at 160 pounds, Dave Constantine for the Bears against Joe LaCorey of Woodbridge. LaCorey is a freshman. Constantine, a senior, and right now it really seems to me, Stu, that it's critical that East Brunswick get themselves some points back.
Absolutely, got to get the momentum going back East Brunswick's way. Woodbridge gets real strong here in the upper weights, which is not one of the East Brunswick's stronger areas.
They can come back in the next weight class with Benson, but Constantine turns him, and he's got the count. You can see the arm going up. He's got a head and arm, it looks like.
Certainly used to capitalize here. Constantine needs to lift up that head.
He's got to belly down a little bit.
Towards the official.
Yep.
Lean his weight into it.
Watch his own weight.
Constantine's got 1:07 to tighten it up, so plenty of time.
Boom.
And it's Constantine, who just very well might be the unsung hero right here.
Well, we were saying East Brunswick needed some points, and Dave Constantine just got 6 back for the Bears.
So after an unexpected loss at 152, Dave Constantine gets the Bears back on track. It stops that Woodbridge momentum at a perfect opportunity.
37-18, the Bears lead right now. And one of the strengths in the upper weights for the Bears right now, Larry Benson.
This is Dave McGowan here.
Oh, sorry. Let me look at it again. I'll
Last
put my
of
glasses on
the
this time.
last of the McGowan legacy.
That's right.
His 3 older brothers wrestled for East Brunswick: Chris, Kevin, and Danny.
Coach them all.
And Dave's the last of the clan. Dave just getting back into the lineup out earlier in the season with an injury, and came back. A perfect opportunity against Piscataway. Key victory that led to that win for East Brunswick last night.
And Dave had a 17-9 major decision last night. That was a big turnaround.
Up a weight class at 171 over his normal 160.
Dave's out against Jerry Magyar, who was a senior for Woodbridge, and according to the managers, very popular with the ladies. That's a warning for both wrestlers. On the stall. Mark's done that a couple of times tonight, called stalling on their feet. He wants them to mix it up a little bit. He does not want them to hold back while they're up there. Theoretically, I always used to do this as a coach. Theoretically, Woodbridge can still win this match.
It's far from a lock yet for East Brunswick. Certainly, we can use a win out of McGowan and Benson. East Brunswick young up top. Dave, the youngest of the McGowans, certainly the biggest of the bunch. Most of his brothers were down the lower or middleweight classes.
I don't think anybody passed about 150. That was the tops for most of those guys. And when I saw them as freshmen and 8th graders, they were in the 120s for at the tops there.
Yeah.
So a much smaller group. Very nice family too. The parents always out there, always supported the kids.
That's right.
And that's one of the things too you see with most of these wrestlers. The families are behind them. They have to be because of the strain and the time commitment that's necessary in wrestling, between tournaments and cutting weight and summer camps and clinics. If you don't have your folks behind you, it's very difficult to do the job.
Mom's taxi service.
That morning pizza after you've weighed in or something. There's no score after 1 period. McGowan in the defense coming up. Almost pulled that tried for a standing switch. He's able to get to his feet and pop out for 1.
Nice burst of energy by Dave. Dave's another one of those wrestlers that's been on the mat a long time, started back in kindergarten. 1 point apiece for stalling.
Well, again, as we were saying before, and we were talking about the McGowans, the fact that your brothers wrestled, you probably wrestled in the living room, you probably wrestled on the couch, broke a few lamps along the way, got yelled at for wrestling where you shouldn't have been in the halls.
I don't know how much Chris, Kevin, and Danny are gonna be picking on Dave anymore. He seems to have filled out nicely, and I don't know if Dave's getting abused around the house anymore. I think he's holding his own.
Danny was coaching with us last year in the recreation program in East Brunswick, putting in some time, and again returning some of that which you got from the program yourself.
Well, it seems to be the losses that have motivated Savitsky, so let's hope once again he can convert tonight and turn it around for the county tournament. That's really where it's important.
You know, talk about how important would that be, Stu? I mean, here it is just before the seeding meeting. against a quality opponent. There's no question about that. But losing the way he did, because they're going to see a pin on the board.
Well, as we said, it's definitely going to play havoc to the seeding meeting. There's going to be a lot of juggling for position where the coaches really want to put their wrestler. Let's see if Savitsky can respond to the loss and turn it into a positive. I'm sure Eric had no intention of wanting to lose tonight, but what Eric needs to do is shrug it off and get a good week of practice in and come back strong next Friday night and get back on track. You know, one thing we don't like seeing is the seniors have a bad match, but it happens to everybody.
Just before the buzzer, Dave gets a takedown and puts up a 3-point lead, leading 4-1 as we go into the third period. Dave McGowan against Jerry Magyar. So you said you're just commenting about a coach placing his wrestler. Would a coach want a lower seed sometimes rather than a higher seed? What would be the purpose behind that?
Well, it's an ever crucial chess match. You know, coach tends to know his own wrestler's strengths, and from seeing the other wrestlers, he knows what wrestlers he might want to avoid that don't parallel his own particular wrestling style. So although your record might qualify for the 6th seed, you might want to avoid him and hold him down to the 7th seed, knowing he'll have a better shot at the 2nd seed if you could follow that. But the coaches can, and they're going to use all their aces and pull out all the trump cards and look to get their wrestlers in the best position. That meeting starts at 4 o'clock Monday, and it's safe to say those coaches won't be home maybe much before midnight.
That is one of the most brutal parts of coaching, when you're sitting at a large tournament seeding meeting and you've got as much quality as you have in Middlesex County, and you're trying to determine whether a 12-1 record is equal to a 13-0 record, and is it really that much different from an 11-1 record?
Well, as you and I know, it's an endless job coaching, in and out of practice, hours preparing, and it's Woodbridge wrestler appears to be backing here. He better watch himself for stalling again. Seems like McGowan's doing all the work.
4-2 right now. Dave McGowan in the lead. And 50 seconds remaining in the 171-pound bout. You can talk about the coaching. It's not just a matter of knowing your own kids' strengths. As you said, you really have to know everybody else in the weight class. You've got to know their records, who they've beaten, how they beat them.
Exactly. And the strength of the schedule that the different teams wrestle against. I mean, you get wrestlers coming in there with 11-0 records, but sometimes you have to ask yourself, who have they beat in?
The fact that East Brunswick has lost, a wrestler from East Brunswick might have lost to a High Point or lost to a North Hunterdon. While it's a loss, it's a, if you want to call it, it's a quality loss.
And again, it's the Woodbridge wrestler backing. And let's see if we get a stalling call here.
Mark Blaska has called them on their feet for stalling. They've both been popped for a point already on backing up.
It's McGowan doing all the work. Trying to hold on to that 4-2 lead with 22 seconds to go in the third. Certainly a win here for East Brunswick.
He's backing up again, but shoots. Dave has a whizzer in as they go off the mat with 15 seconds remaining. At this point, I don't think Jerry Magyar can afford to back up too many more steps. He's got to take that forward move and get in there. He needs the point. I can't believe he's backing up. Even though he set it up before, he was backing up. Dave more in a defensive position, but
Dave needs to hold on to those legs. Needs to keep his head up. We're going to end at 4-2, McGowan. Big win for Dave McGowan. Thus far, since McGowan's been back, he's managed all victories.
Nice job by Dave, which puts East Brunswick up 40-18. As we go into the 189-pound weight class for the Barons, Elvis Jimenez.
It's Larry Benson.
And Larry Benson.
East Brunswick seems to be using the same strategy they used last night, moving Benson to 89 and Cerny McGowan at 71, trying to capitalize on 2 weight classes. And it was effective last night against Piscataway. And let's see if Larry Benson can turn in here and see if we can make that strategy work 2 nights in a row.
Larry comes in with a 9-5 record. Of course, most of that at 171 pounds. Didn't seem to make a difference last night as he pinned in the second period Dom D'Anthony in 3:26. Jimenez, a senior.
So Larry Benson's really come on strong this year. Got the freshman jinx out from under his belt last year. One thing to note, it's much tougher for a freshman to come into the varsity lineup in the upper weights than the lower weights, and the reason being, you know, when you're a freshman, sophomore wrestling 171, 189, 215, you're primarily going against seniors, and when you're a freshman wrestling at the lower weights, you know, chances are pretty good you're wrestling somebody your own year or maybe 1 year older, but you know, Benson wrestled varsity last year as only a freshman in the upper weights, and it's a tall task for a freshman to enter those upper weights, go against primarily seniors.
There have been more than a couple of wrestlers who have fallen by the wayside because they really couldn't just take that pressure as sophomores or freshmen wrestling an upper weight, and really having been successful as young wrestlers and now suddenly wrestling against competition that's so much more physically mature and strong. And so it is a lot easier, you're right, at the lower weights. An odd example, last year, South River's Chris Noto, who has a, what was that again? He was one of the lower weights, I forgot now.
103.
103 as a senior. That's very unusual.
So
Usually you will find the younger wrestlers down there.
So at this point of the night, it's pretty well we can assume that East Brunswick has put the match away with their 40 team points. It's pretty much out of reach now at this point for Woodbridge.
At this point, just as East Brunswick, much of their season right now is really looking at individual records. So are these fellows out here now. They're really looking to see what they can put together, if not for the counties, then at least for the districts down the line.
Well, Benson has the opportunity to enter the county tournament and get a good seed. Had a big win over Pat Shanks, Old Bridge the other night. Shanks was 8-1 going into that match when he lost to Benson. So you got to expect Benson to certainly draw top 4 spots in the seeding.
First period ends with no score. And Benson will take the defense.
Coming up next, we're going to see John Russo's brother, I believe.
Brian will be at 215, a senior. And a young man who also played football. He's been looked at by a number of colleges. Wagner, Columbia. Not necessarily for athletics, but more for the academic side.
I get a second looking over the East Brunswick program tonight, Coach. I see your daughter Jenna is one of the team managers.
You said it, I didn't. So when she hears her name on the tape, I can't be blamed for that. And I didn't tell you to say that.
Okay.
Just would you please say that publicly, that you didn't say that at my request.
Well, since I mentioned Jenna, I'll let you mention the other managers working with Jenna.
The other ladies who work on the sidelines and keep the scores and the statistics and weight charts and do so much. As you know, managers are so vital, and we got so much information from those Woodbridge managers. But for East Brunswick, Nicole Schwartz, Jen Corcoran, Lisa Gumbus, and Lindsay Fleischauer also working as managers for Glenn Pazinko and his coaching crew, doing a fine job over there for them.
Well, that's one of those jobs that you don't always get a lot of recognition, but you do an awful lot of work.
Yeah. I think managers are sometimes, in a lot of sports, it's the kids who can't play the sport who then manage. But in East Brunswick, the kids who come out and do the managing are really not just the water boys. They are working for the team, and they do a lot of work and a fine job, as do the student trainers that Phil Hostler has working for him. He does a lot of training of those kids. They are young people who know quite a bit about athletic fitness and conditioning and care.
So it's Benson that scores first. He's up 2-0. 37 seconds to go in the second period. It's Larry Benson on top of the match and on top of the period.
East Brunswick got off to a very fast start, racked up a 31-0 lead through the 135-pound weight class, had pins at 103 from Scott Munns and 112 from Andrew Hamza. Picked up a very nice win from Phil Yote at 119. Another pin by Eric Bellis at 130 pounds, and followed by Rob McKinley's pin at 135. That was a big lead, which was chipped into by the Barons with 3 consecutive pins at 140, 145, and 152. But the Bears have come back with wins in the last 2 bouts to stretch their lead to 40 to 18, as we are here with Larry Benson in the 189-pound weight class. And after 2 periods, a 2-0 lead.
So if there's a lesson to be learned for these Brunswick wrestlers tonight as they enter that county tournament, certainly the Butchie Zorber story, where anybody can emerge with any kind of record, really go on and place in the districts and counties. And you got to reach down deep for that inner motivation, and it's capable of coming home with a championship. Got to believe.
As long as you have some guts and heart, and you've got the talent, and the East Brunswick wrestlers certainly have enough technique and ability to show something on the mat. It's just a matter of what you can bring up from within.
11-0, 10-0, 9-2. No matter what the score, it's all a race when that hand hits the mat and the referee slaps that mat with the fall.
I mean, you look at Eric Savitsky's match. It was 3-2, 4-2, 4-3, 4-4. It was a tie match, and all of a sudden everything just went the other way. So anything can happen at the last minute. That was no more than a 3-point decision until the last 15, 20 seconds of the bout.
Well, after a 2-point takedown by Woodbridge, Benson's quick to turn that around to a reversal. So we're at 4-2 in the third.
Just under a minute to go.
Benson needs to come out to the side and look to turn.
He's got that
cannot
cross
stay
face.
Parallel like that. He's been hit once for stalling in that position.
Looked like he wanted a cross-face cradle there for a minute. I'm not sure where he's going right now.
Benson wants to do here, he wants to try to increase that lead. Turn Gemness to his back. Pick up some insurance points here late in the third period. Looks like he's trying that old Russo 3/4 of his own.
He's got that leg hook, but he's only got 13 seconds remaining in this period.
So with 10 seconds, we're winding down here in the third. Larry Benson's gonna pick up another 4-2 victory.
A 4-2 victory for Larry Benson, and another 3 points for the Bears, and their lead is extended to 43 to 18, and going out on the mat is a man among boys.
Yeah,
Brian Russo.
Say that again, you're certainly right.
Russo comes in at 9-0 for the Barons. A senior, younger brother John.
Looks like we're looking at a small brick wall here. I don't know about small, maybe that's a big brick wall.
Adam Goldstein is up for the Bears. And he has a tall order in Brian Russo.
Goldstein's really come on strong as of late. Had a big pin the other night against J.P. Stevens.
Had a pin against North Hunterdon, that losing effort for the Bears, but he also picked up the pin there at 2:15. So he's had his ups and downs, but he's
manages to avert the takedown here.
I'll tell you, you know, as a big, I'm not a big guy, but if I had to look at that across the way, I'd be a little hesitant to do much of anything except turn around and sit down.
Well, let's hope you can't judge a book by its cover always,
okay.
And Goldstein can give it a go here. But we're certainly looking at first seeds for both the Russo brothers from Woodbridge in the county tournament.
If not first seed, they're going to be in the top 3. They're going to certainly make to the semifinals and move their way through that tournament.
Well, Brian's younger brother John already with a big win over Mike Malanconico of Edison.
That was
last week.
Yeah, that was Malanconico's first loss of the season, so that was certainly a big win for him.
That's been the feature feature bout at 140 around the county so far this year. I stand to be corrected. That was 6-4, not 4-2. But the important thing was John Russo was the winner. Interesting to note, Russo's only loss is a 130-pounder. Dave Esposito jumped up 2 weight classes and took on the challenge and beat Russo 14-1 earlier in the season. But you got a wrestler that can go up 2 weight classes and beat the best kid in the county up 2 weight classes, and beat him decisively. That certainly says something for you. And that wrestler we're talking about is Dave Esposito from John F. Kennedy High School. Esposito's second to state last year for JFK. Lost a heartbreaker in the state finals, up 11-0, and got caught with a few seconds to go in the third. And found himself pinned. Certainly on a mission this year to return to the States and bring home a state championship, which would be the first ever for John F. Kennedy High School.
Well, any kid who gets down to the States as a junior, I think that just like they talk about with basketball teams making it to the Final Four and things like that, the first time around they look at it and say, my gosh, here I am in well, it used to be Jadwin.
Yeah.
Here I am in the state finals with all these people around. I've got 6-8 mats around me, all these quality wrestlers. And there is a certain feeling, I'm sure, that I made it this far.
Certain feeling of elitism.
And I'm sure that when he was up 11-0, and he had to feel very confident at that point, but as we've said before, anything can happen in those few seconds. You lean over the wrong way and bang, you're on the other side. So you're right, that does, with most wrestlers, if they're really committed to the sport, they're going to reach in, they're going to reach down and try to pull from within and come back and use that as a motivation.
As we get a look at Brian Mintz giving some instruction to Adam Goldstein. For those of you who haven't got the opportunity to see Dave Esposito wrestle this year for Kennedy, he certainly is the class of Middlesex County. If there's any one wrestler in the county that comes to your immediate attention, Middlesex County's greatest opportunity for a state championship, you gotta think Dave Esposito.
Have you worked many Kennedy matches? Have you had a chance to see him that often?
He's been wrestling varsity now since he's a freshman. He's a senior. So over the years, I've had an opportunity to get a look at him, and every time I do, I'm impressed. He just is really a technician, slick, year-round competitor. Russo working on escape, runs out of room. So we're going to be at 2-1 in the second.
You know, you're commenting before about Brian Mintz giving some pointers to Goldstein, and Brian's probably around 150 pounds right now, and that's not much bigger than where I am, or smaller than where I am. I always felt very uncomfortable working with the big guys because obviously they had a different style of wrestling, and it was tough for me sometimes to give them pointers.
I think you get a guy like Brian Mintz, he's smart enough to be able to realize that and show Goldstein moves that are going to work for him.
Are you implying that I'm not smart enough to do that? I just...
Any way you want to take it, Coach.
You may be right. I don't know. No, I mean, you're right.
Well, Brian, what I'm referring to is Brian's a student of wrestling. He knows what's going to work, what's not going to work for a Goldstein as opposed to a Bellis or a Muntz. Brian's tailoring his instruction to the wrestler on the mat. As Russo's in on a duck under takedown.
Got it very deep. Goes up 5-1 now with just over a minute remaining in the second period.
So thus far, Adams certainly keeping this match very respectful. Certainly not giving Russo any freebies.
Locking up that cradle and rocks him back.
Russo, what Goldstein needs to do here is kick.
He's got to
get that leg free.
Kick this way towards.
And he's real close to the parameter of the mat. If he can get himself out of bounds, he's going to get saved. Goldstein needs to kick that leg hard.
Work that right arm through.
We used to call it a bicycle kick. He used to just kick like mad and try to get out of there.
He may be loosening up a little bit.
And he bellies down and he gets himself out of a near fall situation.
You know, for Coach Bob Zaga, this has to be very disappointing. Earlier this week, the Home News and Tribune listed Woodbridge as part of their top 10. They broke into the top 10 for the first time. Last year, having had a very disappointing year, only 4 wins, they already surpassed that. And then the first thing out of the box after that comes out in the paper. They lose to Edison, and now it looks like they're going to have their second loss in a row after breaking into that top 10. So certainly not what Bob Zager was hoping for from a motivational standpoint of that top 10 ranking.
That's why those wins and losses are always deceiving, because the wins and losses don't tell you who the teams have competed against. And if you take any team in Middlesex County, it's certainly East Brunswick that's wrestling perhaps the toughest schedule. And where East Brunswick is picking up a lot more losses because of that, it's making their wrestlers that much tougher down the road.
Yeah, on an individual basis, they're certainly succeeding in doing what they want to do, which is preparing them for the districts, for the counties, and whatever may come beyond that.
We've seen it all too often where wrestlers come in and they get inflated seeds based on 11-0 records, 12-0 records. You know what? They're out real fast.
I can remember a story a number of years ago when the county tournament was held during the Christmas holidays, and a young man by the name of Friday was wrestling for Piscataway.
That's right.
And Norm Winter came into the seating meeting and said, "The kid's a freshman. We don't have much of a record for him, but let me warn you, the kid's going to do some damage in there." And nobody wanted to believe him because he didn't have the record. And Mr. Friday came in and ripped through that tournament, which is one of the reasons why the county tournament was moved from the holidays to where it is now, because they wanted to see some numbers on the board for the kids.
So we see Adam Goldstein just capitalized on a Russo mistake and converted it into an escape. Russo tried to force the three-quarter Nelson that really wasn't there, really wasn't set up, didn't have the ankle secured and hooked. Got what we refer to in wrestling maybe as a little cocky, tried to force the move, and Goldstein quickly converted that into an escape.
We've got a double warning there on the stall. You know, that one of the things I'm always concerned about with wrestlers, when you get a guy over and you've got him locked up in something as tight as Russo had Goldstein over there before in that cradle, and you let him go, there's always the danger of that guy deciding to come back and just wreak havoc on you. I've always told kids, when you get him over, don't let him up.
That's when you want to end it. You get the opportunity to get your opponent on your back. You want to end the match right there. You want to wrestle any longer, any harder than you have to. You might not get an opportunity again. If you get an opportunity, you want to capitalize.
Take advantage of what is there. That's another takedown. I'm sorry. Did he signal a takedown? Did signal a takedown. They haven't put it on the board yet.
So we're at 10-2, even though the scoreboard's showing 8-2.
And
now 10-3.
Just 20 seconds remaining. Well, Adam Goldstein certainly is not showing too much intimidation here, or being intimidated by Brian Russo.
You got to be impressed with Goldstein showing us here tonight. Keeping this match real tight. One of the best wrestlers in his weight class in the county.
I didn't see anything happen over there, Stu, but obviously Adam's not doing too well. Something must have happened.
19 seconds to go in the third. We're going to get a timeout. Coach Brzezinko, we see getting a look. Adam Goldstein trying to see what's bothering him.
You look over there, Bob Zager being left alone with his wrestler, Brian Russo, but the injury prevents Mark Blaska from moving away from the East Brunswick coach. And, he's going to do it right now. When there's an injury, coaching is not permitted, and so the referee will stay over there by the injured wrestler with his coach to make sure that the only thing they're talking about is the injury, so you're not faking it to get the extra time. Meanwhile, Bob Zager can do whatever he wants over there in coaching Brian Russo.
That rule's been around for about 5 years, and I'm glad they added that rule.
I always liked it when my kid wasn't hurt, because then I could talk all I wanted to. But you're right. I mean, there were too many times, and unfortunately, when kids would exploit a situation and take advantage of it.
So you mentioned earlier you're involved in the recreation program. You got the itch. You're back on the mats with the little guys. Any kids having some fine seasons down there you can mention?
There are a lot of kids. I'll mention somebody who I'm not coaching this year, but I did coach last year. A young fellow by the name of Matt DeMeo, who's a 7th grader. He's up with the 7th and 8th grade team. Good wrestler. He's got a younger brother, Dom, who's wrestling with me. Carmen Corona, one of the little guys that we're working with. The Richings, Corey, and Keith, 2 outstanding wrestlers. Really, there's your future of East Brunswick wrestling with those guys. A final of 10-3 with Brian Russo taking that one.
Coach Inazzo's son, Nick.
Chris, well, I guess Chris and Nick are both young wrestlers.
Nick doing a great job down at Churchill. Undefeated thus far this season. Nick in the 8th grade.
Matt DeMeo, I owe a cheesecake to, because last year he was a nice young wrestler, but he was trying some crazy stuff, and I told him that I didn't want him doing a double armbar. I would never pin a guy with it, and this year he did it, and I owe him a cheesecake for it. John Calabrese at heavyweight against Adam Greenhut, and if we thought that it was a man among boys with Brian Russo, I think Mr. Calabrese just took it up a notch.
Looks like he's enjoying a good 40, 50-pound weight advantage here.
At least. So
the heavyweight class is unrestricted weight up to 275. We don't know what Calabrese weighs in at, but he looks every bit close to that.
Yeah, John's got to be up there in the 240s, 250s, maybe more.
I think you're being a little light on him.
Well, at my size, too, anything that's
anything
over 170 is heavyweight. Snap down. And Adam giving it the fight, but it is a difficult battle when you've got that much weight on top of you.
Well, you mentioned Woodbridge having a tough week with facing Edison and East Brunswick, and it's, I hate to tell you, tomorrow they got Old Bridge.
Well, what started out the week as a very positive sign at 5-2-1, ranked number 9 in the area by the local newspaper. Suddenly they're going to walk out of here tonight at 5-4-1, and Old Bridge tomorrow. Not that I want to doom anybody, but it looks like a 500 record out of the weekend for the Barons.
So we're 1 minute into the first period here at heavyweight. Our last bout of the night.
Now the size difference in some wrestlers is always amazing at heavyweight. You want to go back into the archives. We'll stretch it back a few years, and there were a couple of bouts. South River certainly has come back as a team, but
I know what's coming here.
A fellow who was an official also, Russ Olson, who was a heavyweight for South River. I saw him as a freshman coach and then as a JV coach moving up to high school. He was a very big fella. Calabrese turning him over, wrestling a young man from East Brunswick by the name of Bill Jeevis, and some really great battles at that heavyweight bout between those, a very big fella and Bill about 200 pounds and Russ quite a bit bigger than that, but two very good wrestlers, but a big difference in weight, and yet they still had these great battles. Calabrese can't lock down that pin. He's got the cradle, and Adam Greenhut, I won't say it's a standing ovation in the stands, but there's certainly cheering for him that he's fighting this pin. He's not going to get it because Greenhut's arm was popped up above his. The shoulder was way high. He wasn't going to turn him over. But a 5-0 lead right now for Joe Calabrese as we go into the second period. And Adam Greenhut, despite that weight disadvantage, putting up a good fight. Stays on his feet. Probably a wise move.
The crowd's behind him here.
The chant of Greenhut, Greenhut going up from the stands.
Gotta like the underdog when crowd gets behind you. They know you're giving up some 40, 50, 60 pounds, and they're pulling for you.
As the Pittsburgh Steelers of wrestling here, Adam, taking that role in the Super Bowl.
Any predictions, Coach?
I'd like to see the Steelers pull it off. I really would.
Put you on the line for a score.
Yeah, well, but the thing is, my youngest daughter is a Cowboy fan, so I have to be careful what I say.
So can't get you to commit here, huh?
It's a tough one. As I said, I'd like to see the Steelers win. I'm not sure. It depends if they can get the passing game going along the running game. They need the running game to go. I'm just picking up that information from George Young on the radio today, listening to the fan.
Well, I'm gonna give the Dallas, the Stu Kohn 42-17 edge. So move over, Mike and the Mad Dog.
Cowboys 42-17.
42-17.
Well, nice spin out by Greenhut. Recovery there. pressuring the head.
Crowd is really behind Greenhut here.
And he's responding. He's coming up with a little gutsy move here. He's got that ankle. He's trying to stretch him out. Needs a crossface in here.
High leg over here.
He's got his leg caught. Calabrese just holding onto that leg, not doing an awful lot. We've got a stalemate. Mark Blaska calling that stalemate with 42 seconds remaining in the second period.
You get a lot of variations in the way different officials officiate, different styles. A lot of officials use that stalemate call as opposed to the stalling call.
Yeah.
And former coach of mine, Paul Quirk, as you know, used to always say, you always got to be two people out on the mat.
Right.
The patented line, you got to beat your opponent and the official.
Well, Paul also said, push comes to shove, if it's a close match, you can't blame the official for your loss.
That's right.
It still comes down to those two wrestlers on the mat.
Best way to win is don't keep it close.
Just a quick mention, there is one more home wrestling match for the Bears this season. It is not appearing on the schedule. If you have anything like that at home, on February 17th, that's Saturday at 11 o'clock, the Bears will be hosting Middletown South here at East Brunswick High School.
Another one of those competitive teams that East Brunswick has picked up and added to their schedule.
That can only help them down the line.
Yeah, East Brunswick, when they add the teams to the schedule, they're looking for quality opponents. Not a quality team need not apply.
Very true. And that has been the pattern for many years. And even the tournaments that the Bears go into, they're always going to go into quality tournaments where they're going to see a lot of good teams. You've got 100 in Central, you're going to pull in a lot of quality clubs from all over the state.
And I'm sure there's a correlation to that schedule and the number of district championships that the Bears have garnished over the years.
No question.
That schedule and their district tradition go hand in hand.
They'll stay the same. Adam Greenhut will stay on top. He's holding his own. I'm really impressed. I mean, I have to, as I said, if I saw the size of somebody like John Calabrese coming at me, I'd turn tail. I'm not going to be a heavyweight, that's for sure. And Adam Greenhut is really giving it quite a performance. It is 5-0. And this is the point where he's got to be careful because now he's bearing that weight. And the pressure can start to be a little heavy. He gave him the escape, so we have a 6-0 score right now. Well, Coach, I always said I had a hard time coaching the big guys. What's he supposed to do now?
Oh, pray?
No. And he's got to back himself out of there. He's got to, because he is carrying that weight. He's bent over. He's got 270 pounds or whatever it is on top of him. He can't stay underneath like that. He's got to be careful in shooting because he goes in for the legs and a sprawl like that, and you've got that much weight on top, it's going to take the wind out of you.
Sometimes just nowhere to hide out there.
Right.
It's the one thing about wrestling, you can only depend on your teammates from the sidelines. You're out there all by yourself, nowhere to hide. Sometimes you just want to crawl into a corner, but that mat's round, and you're stuck out there.
It is what makes the sport so great. I mean, you get all the blame when you go down. You certainly can't give that up, but you also get the glory when it's your turn. And right now, Adam Greenhut is I think, getting quite a bit of glory just by the competitive nature of this bout. Takedown for Calabrese, which makes it an 8-0 score. So we've got a major decision with just under 30 seconds remaining. And Greenhut takes that down to a regular decision at 8-1 with 19 seconds remaining. A lot of character being shown by this young man. Glenn Pazinko having to be very happy with the performance of his team both last night with a win over Piscataway and today's win against Woodbridge.
That's going to about wrap it up tonight in this bout.
And East Brunswick picks up its 4th win and goes to 4-2 in the red division. And
2 consecutive red division wins.
if I read this correctly, they're in 3rd place right now in the red division.
So the wrestlers are going to exchange handshakes. And we're going to end at 43-24. An impressive East Brunswick win tonight that saw the Bears win 9 out of 13 weight classes with 5 pins. Scott Muntz, Andrew Hamza, Eric Bellis, Rob McKinley, Dave Constantine, all recording Bears pins, and that was the difference in tonight's match.
Well, we had said that earlier in one of the earlier bouts against Stevens, against Perth Amboy, the giving up of those pins was what cost the Bears the match. They certainly turned it around tonight, and those pins made a big difference. And getting up to that fast start, winning those early bouts, building up that 31-0 lead, certainly set the pattern for the night's performance by East Brunswick.
Outstanding display of wrestling tonight for East Brunswick. That's going to about wrap it up for tonight's action. So for Bob Cancro and Stu Kohn, thanks for joining us.